everyone, you're watching RV's Learning Point and our today's concept is real numbers. So what are real numbers? Both rational and irrational numbers are called real numbers. Both rational and irrational numbers are called as real numbers. So what are rational numbers? What are rational numbers? The numbers which can be expressed in the form of P by Q, where P and Q are integers, and Q is not equal to 0. So, rational numbers are those numbers which can be expressed in the form of P by Q, where P and Q are integers and Q is not equal to 0. So, for example, 2 by 3, 5 by 6. So these are rational numbers in the form of P by Q, where Q is not equal to 0. Next, what are irrational numbers? The numbers which cannot be expressed. The numbers which cannot be expressed in the form of P by Q. The numbers which cannot be expressed in the form of P by Q are called as irrational numbers, and also the decimal numbers that are non-terminating or recurring, that is repeating. So those numbers are called as irrational numbers. So for example, root 2, root 3 pi, 0.010010001. So, and etc. So these are examples of irrational numbers. So what are rational numbers? The numbers which can be expressed in the form of P by Q, where P and Q are integers and Q is not equal to 0. And irrational numbers are those numbers which cannot be expressed in the form of P by Q, and also decimal numbers which are non-terminating or recurring, that is repeating. So for example, root 2, root 3 pi and 0.01001 and 00001. Also, the set of real numbers are denoted, the whole set of real numbers are denoted with the letter R. Next concept is Euclid's division lemma. So, this is a new term, Euclid's division lemma. So, first, let's take a simple example, that is divide 37 by 5. This is our first example, that is divide 37 by 5. So, you follow the long division process. 5 multiplied by 7 gives me 35 and 2 is the remainder. So, this is what we do in the long division process. Now this is what is expressed in the Euclid's division lemma. Generally, Euclid's division lemma is expressed as A is equal to BQ plus R. Now this is Euclid's division lemma in its general form, that is A is equal to BQ plus R. Now A is the dividend. A is the dividend, B is the divisor, Q is the quotient, and R is the remainder. So this is the general form of Euclid's division lemma, that is A is equal to BQ plus R, where A is the dividend, B is the divisor, Q is the quotient and R is the remainder. So, the dividend is a number that is the greater one among the two. Now, observe 37 and 5. So, 37 is the greater number. So, this becomes A, that is the dividend. And 5 is the number that is lesser than 35. So, this becomes B, that is the divisor. Now, express this in the form of A is equal to BQ plus R. I get A is the dividend. So, 37 is equal to B is the divisor multiplied by q, the quotient, plus the remainder 2. Now, if you simplify, 5 into 7 is 35. 35 plus 2 is 37. You get LHS is equal to RHS. Now, this is what we call as the Euclid's division lemma. Now, let us know some facts about Euclid's division lemma. So, the general form as I have written here is A is equal to BQ plus R. Now, you will always have to remember that 0 is lesser or equal to the remainder. 0 is always lesser or equal to the remainder, and the remainder is always lesser than the divisor. I hope you all understood what is Euclid's division lemma. Now let us move on to the Euclid's division algorithm. As I have written here, Euclid's division algorithm is used to obtain the HCF of two positive integers. Now, say the two positive integers are A and B. Now the condition is A is greater than B. Now, A and B are the two positive integers, and the condition is that A is greater than B. Now, to find the HCF of two positive integers, first write the general form of Euclid's division lemma, that is A equal to BQ plus R. Now, substitute the values of A and B in this general form. So, in the first go, if you get R is equal to 0, if you get R is equal to 0, then remember the second number or the number that is the lesser one, the number that is lesser than the other. See, for suppose A is greater than B. So, this number becomes the HCF. In the first go, if you get R is equal to 0, then the number which is lesser than the other, that is this over here, it is B. So, B becomes the HCF of the two numbers. Whereas, if you get R is not equal to 0, then you will have to continue the long division process until you get the remainder as 0. And at that stage, when you get the remainder as 0, the divisor becomes the HCF. Now, to understand this better, let's solve an example. Our first example is find the HCF of 12 and 6 by using Euclid's division algorithm. So, first start with the long division process. 12 and 6. 6 multiplied by 2 gives me 12 and my remainder is 0. So now write this in the form of Euclid's division lemma. That is, the general form is A is equal to BQ plus R, where 0 is lesser or equal to the remainder, that is lesser than the divisor. Now substitute in the general form, that is 12 is equal to, see, A is the dividend. So 12 is equal to, B is the divisor. Now what is the divisor here? 6, correct. Now 6 multiplied by the quotient 2 plus the remainder. Remainder is 0. So 0. Now 12 is equal to 6 multiplied by 2, whereas plus 0 is like, you can neglect that. Now 6 multiplied by 2. Now you can say that 6 is the HCF of 12. HCF of 12, 6 is 6 itself. Why? Because in the first go, the first time itself, you have got the remainder. Remember the first case. If R is equal to 0 in the first go, then the divisor, that is B, is the HCF of the two numbers. The next example is to find the HCF of 30 and 70. Now observe, the greater number of the two is 70. So 70 becomes the dividend. Yes, 70 is the dividend and 30 is the divisor. Now 30 multiplied by 2 is 60. I have 10 in my remainder. Now the divisor of the first two numbers becomes the dividend of the next, and the remainder of the first two numbers becomes the divisor. Now 30. 10 multiplied by 3 gives me 30 and my remainder is 0. Now express this in the form of Euclid's division lemma. The general form A equal to BQ plus R, where 0 is less than or equal to the remainder and the remainder is always less than the divisor. Now substitute the values. Dividend is 70, that is equal to divisor 30 multiplied by the quotient 2 plus the remainder 10. Now next, the dividend is 30, that is equal to divisor 10 multiplied by 3 plus the remainder is 0. Now this is the second case where if R is not equal to 0 in the first go, you continue the long division process until you get the remainder as 0, and this time the divisor becomes the HCF. So now the HCF of 30, 70 is 10. Simple? Okay. Moving on, we have the fundamental theorem of arithmetics. This states that every composite number can be expressed as the product of its two unique prime numbers. So, every composite number can be expressed in the form of the product of its two prime numbers, and this factorization is very unique. Now let us solve one example to understand the relationship between the HCF and LCM in a better way. So, find the HCF of 8 and 648 by using the prime factorization method. So, we have to find the HCF of 8 and 648 by using the prime factorization method, and further it states that also find the LCM of the two numbers. So, first find the HCF by using the prime factorization method. Now 8, the smallest prime number 2, 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. Again you have 2 multiplied by 2 is 4, and again you have 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. Now 8 can be written as 2 cube. That is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. That gives me 2 cube. Next, 648. Now again start with the smallest prime number 2. 2 3 is 6, 2 2 is 4, and 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. Next, 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. You have 1 remaining. 2 multiplied by 6 is 12. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. Next, 2 multiplied by 8 gives me 16. 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. Now 81 is not a multiple of 2. Let's go with the next prime number, that is 3. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. You have 2 remaining. 3 multiplied by 7 gives me 21. Now 3 multiplied by 9 gives me 27, and 3 multiplied by 3 gives me 9. 3 multiplied by 1 gives me 3. Now 648 can be written as 2 into 2 into 2, that is 2 cube, into 3 into 3 into 3 into 3, that is 3 to the power 4. Now what is the HCF? HCF means the highest common factor. Now what is common among 8 and 648? Yes, it is 2 cube. 2 cube is common among 8 and 648. So the HCF of 8 and 648 is 2 cube, that is nothing but 8 itself. Next, you know now the value of the HCF, that is 8. Now find the LCM. So I have given you a relationship between HCF and LCM and the two numbers. So HCF of the two numbers 8, 648 multiplied into the LCM of 8, 648 is equal to the product of the two numbers 8 multiplied into 648. Now you know the value of the HCF of the two numbers, that is 8. Now 8 into LCM of 8 comma 648 is equal to 8 into 648. Now by simplification you get LCM of 8 comma 648 is equal to 8 into 648 whole divided by 8. Now this, that is multiplication in the left hand side. When it moves to the right hand side, it becomes the division. Now 8 gets cancelled. The LCM of 8 comma 648 is 648. Now you know the value of the HCF and the LCM. So therefore the value of HCF is 8 and the LCM is 648. Simple. Okay, next. Now let us talk a bit more about irrational numbers. So as you already know, irrational numbers are those numbers which cannot be expressed in the form of P by Q. So irrational numbers are those numbers which cannot be expressed in the form of P by Q, and decimal numbers that are non-terminating or recurring. So the examples of irrational numbers are root 2, root 3 pi, 0.010010001. So this zeros increases in a series. Now you have 0, 00, 000. Now you have 4 zeros, 1. Now this is what we call as the irrational numbers. Now look at this. If a prime number P divides A square. See, if a prime number P divides A square, then we will have to prove that P divides A. Now they are already saying that P divides A square. We will have to prove that if P divides A square, then P also divides A. There is a condition that here A is a positive integer. A is a positive integer. Now let us start with the proof. See, let us assume that the prime factorization of A, is P1 into P2 into P3 and so on until Pn. Now this is our assumption that the prime factorization of A equals to P1 into P2 into P3 and so on until Pn. Now this is, we can say this by the fundamental theorem of arithmetics, that a composite number is always the product, or it can be expressed as the product of two or more prime numbers. Now let this be equation 1. Now when I square on both the sides, that is the LHS and the RHS, I get A square is equal to P1 into P2 into P3 and so on until Pn the whole square. Now what does P1 into P2 into P3 and so on until Pn the whole square mean? That yes, A square is equal to P1 square into P2 square into P3 square and so on until Pn square. Now you all know that P divides a square. This is given. P divides a square. So, if P divides a square, then P divides P1 square into P2 square into P3 square and so on until Pn square. See over here, you have a square is equal to P1 square into P2 square into P3 square and so on until Pn square, and this is what I have substituted in the place of a square. Now if P divides P1 square, P2 square, P3 square and so on until Pn square, then this also is a prime number and all these are also prime numbers. So there is a relationship between P and P1 square, P2 square, P3 square and all these, that is P is also one of the prime numbers among P1 square into P2 square into P3 square and so on until Pn square. Now P is also one of the prime number among all these. So what does this mean? That now you can just add a Px over here because we don't know the value which comes here. P1, P2, P5, P11 and so on until Pn. So we don't know the exact value. So we just substitute this as Px. Now Px divides P1, P2, P3 and so on until Pn. Now this can be told because all these numbers are unique. So by which the fundamental theorem of arithmetics. Now if Px divides all these, then this P1, P2, P3 and so on until Pn is nothing but A. So Px is nothing but P. So therefore P is equal to P, that is P divides A. Why? Because if Px divides P1, P2, P3 and so on until Pn, so we have assumed this as A. So that is why P divides A. Hence prove that if a prime number P divides A square, then the prime number P also divides A only and only when A is a positive integer. Now we can use the above solved theorem to solve such problems where they ask you to show that root 7, not only root 7 but they can ask any irrational number. Like here, you have to prove that this number is an irrational number. Now let's start by assuming that let root 7 be a rational number. So first we start by assuming that root 7 is a rational number. Now how can rational number be expressed? Yes, rational number can be expressed in the form of P by Q, that is, those are just the alphabets. Now let us take A by B, root 7, that can be expressed in the form of A by B, where A and B are co-primes and B is not equal to 0. So root 7 can be expressed in the form of rational number, that is A by B, where A and B are co-primes. So what do you mean by co-primes? Co-primes are such numbers which do not have any other common number among them except 1. So such numbers are called as co-primes. So A and B are co-primes and B is not equal to 0. Now I square on both sides. By squaring on both sides, I get root 7 the whole square equal to A by B the whole square. Now root and square gets cancelled. So 7 equal to A square divided by B square. Now to simplify, just multiply 7 and that is cross multiplication. You have 1. So 7b square is equal to A square into 1 is nothing but A square. Now this is in the form where you can write P is equal to A square. Now you can write as 7 divides, that is 7 is a factor. 7 is a factor of A square. Therefore, by the theorem, you can say that 7 is also a factor of A. Now, call this 7b square is equal to A square as equation 1. So you have 7b square equal to A square as your first equation. Now let A be 7c. Now let A be 7c. This is my second equation where c is an integer. Now substitute the value of A in the second equation in the first equation. Now what do you get? 7b square is equal to A square. What is A? 7c. Correct. 7c the whole square. Now you get 7b square is equal to 7 square is 49c square. Now you have multiplication. When it moves from the left hand side to the right hand side, multiplication becomes division. Correct. Now 49c square divided by 7. 7 into 7 is 49. Therefore, b square is equal to 7c square. Now it can be told that 7 is a factor of b square. Now if p is a factor of a square, p is also a factor of a. Same way, 7 is also a factor of b. Now just observe, you have 7 is a factor of a, 7 is also a factor of b. So by this you can say that this implies 7 is a common factor. 7 is a common factor of both A as well as B. Because 7 is a factor of A square and A. 7 is also a factor of B square and B. So 7 is a common factor of both A and B. But what did we assume? That A and B are coprimes. What did I tell coprimes mean? Coprimes are such numbers which do not have any common number except 1. But here you have a common number among the two numbers except 1, that is 7. So this contradicts to the fact that A and B are coprimes. So if this contradicts the fact that A and B are coprimes, that means our assumption is wrong. So our assumption is wrong. Therefore, what did we assume? That root 7 was a rational number, but our assumption is wrong. So what does this prove? That yes, hence root 7 is an irrational number. Now 773 divided by 1000 is nothing but 773 divided by 2 cube into 5 cube. Now you can observe that if the decimal expansions of a number is terminating, if the decimal expansion of a number is terminating, if it is terminating, then the number can be written in the form of p by q. See, this number is terminating and this can be written in the form of p by q, where where P and Q are again co-primes. P and Q are co-primes, and mainly Q is not equal to 0. One more important thing is that if the decimal expansions of rational numbers are terminating, then if you factorize Q, when you factorize Q, Q is equal to 2 power m into 5 power n. So when you factorize Q, that is, if suppose see, you have 100, when you factorize this, you get 2 square into 5 square, and you have 1000. So when you factorize this, that is, when you break down 1000, you get 2 cube into 5 cube. So it means that if the decimal expansion of a number is terminating, then Q, when it is factorized, it is 2 power m into 5 power n. Here you have to remember that m and n are non-negative integers. Are non-negative integers. So, if the decimal expansions of a rational number are terminating in the form of P by Q, where P and Q are co-primes and Q is not equal to 0, then remember that if you factorize Q, you get 2 power m into 5 power n. So that's it for today's class. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please like, share and subscribe to my channel RV's Learning Point.